the defeat has been handed out, as predicted. There was the possibility of, them getting saved, but the way that it was kind of going into, the chances were slim. It's looking a little bit dark right now. We got a nice dark chapter after, I'd say a fairly good, happier time going into it, but once Drakken Joe stepped out, it just kind of all fell apart. Things were not going well for the Eden Zero crew at that point. One thing that happened amongst us that actually made me slightly happy, and that was when we found out Seth wasn't really dead, which makes sense because he's a robot. I just thought he was cool as this sharpshooting robotic cowboy. I just thought that was badass. But the rest of the chapter, I'm intrigued to know how things go beyond this, because there are two things that we know. One is there are going to be, there's going to be time travel stuff in this. To what degree, we don't know. I doubt it's going to be just straight oh yeah, we go back in time, prevent things. Maybe it'll be more what's that movie? I know it's based off a manga, but it's Live, Die, Repeat. Edge of Tomorrow is the official one. Live, Die, Repeat, I think, is the manga. But how it's, you get reset and you have to kind of live and fix something this time. I know there's a bunch of other movies that it's hey, you have a do-over on a day. You get to do certain things differently and maybe fix them. Something like that rather than just oh yeah, I time travel and fix things. Because we don't know what Leaper can fully do. We don't know, the extent that Rebecca is going to have on this. It's hinted at some form of, time reversal power. But I don't think it'll be just, free time travel. I think that would be too breaking to the story. Because then it'd be well, she can just go back and fix anything. To what extent, we don't know. We will see. I'm curious of what that's going to be. And I think that we can just know Shiki's not going to die. He's the main character. And then you had, going into this arc, there was that dream that Rebecca had that was probably, more of a premonition of the future, more of, just future sight than anything of stuff to come. And it would be very weird, I would say, to be, in the idea of killing off the main character for that. I've seen series where they've killed off the main character officially. I don't think it'll be Shiki, and it'd be too strange to do it. There's no real build-up for it, other than it would just be oh yeah, then make Wise the main character or something. I don't think so. I see either Leaper coming into play, or there being some reveal of exactly about Shiki. It would, something about him that, he's not human. Something that would explain why Ziggy picked him and, took him under his wing. Something in there that would explain him. Maybe he's some form of lost alien race. That, he's, the last of his breed, and, he's some special creature. Something like that, as it is. And I think it'd be really cool if part of his story was that he was this, he was a member of this, very, I want to say nightmarish, hellish race. But, as we've seen him, he's more happy and friendly, but it's only when you piss him off that it becomes more of that villain-like persona, that just absolute antagonist aura to him. And it'd be really cool at the same time, because then you get that contrast, and it would be, oh yeah, he's from this hellish background. You only see that side of him if he, if something came out of him, oh yeah, you fucked with his friends too much. But it's a possibility. I think it's either time travel, short-range time travel with how Leaper works. Maybe we'll get a further explanation of how it works. Or, a reveal of Shiki in, exactly what he is. What is specific about him. Because there has to be something unique about him, that Ziggy took him under his wing, as a baby. Because why else would he take him? He's not just going to take a child. And we know if you go back and look at Shiki, he was wearing, pretty nice-looking garb. Nice little clothes. They look pretty pristine. We don't know if that's because it was Ziggy or if it was from wherever he's from. Just some form of reveal. To kind of he survived because this thing. And it's kind of brought up, well, this app, he's able to, live on because of X, Y, or Z. Something that's more of an explanation than just him oh yeah, I lived and I just kind of stirred through it. Though it would be kind of cool, personally, I would admit. But we know that, with Xiao Mei, she can't see things at outcome of a battle, where maybe it's she can't tell with Shiki because he's kind of battling to stay alive. He's just trying to fight his body into not giving up and just, collapsing and decaying. Who knows? That's the mystery, I think, that's more interesting, because again, I think a lot of people know that Shiki's not going to die. It's more of the question of how is he going to live? Again, time travel or some form of reveal. I'm kind of hoping for the reveal. I don't like the idea of just time travel fixing stuff. I think it'd be much cooler to reveal something special and secret about Shiki that would kind of build him up. Maybe something about the Satan gravity of why he gave it to him. Like, I'm just kind of like picturing like something like maybe Ziggy found the race and it was because, you know, that you had this innocent, uncorrupted child from like some, horrifying species that he's decided to try and steer in a right direction. As Ziggy, maybe it would be part of his story of like his whole Demon King title and how that would I'd be like, oh yeah, he went from this like very scary title and possibly like position to being like seemingly this nicer guy, and maybe that kind of like started to turn him into a better person. I think that'd be really cool. But we already saw Wise got his hand chopped off, and I was a little bit like, when I first read the chapter, I was like, maybe it'll be one of those fake out times, and it'll be something happens, some character shows up, Justice or somebody. But then, well, like shortly after, like I think it was like a couple days after the chapter, it was realized that he doesn't, like, the old man Wise didn't have an arm. He had a robot arm. So it was like, yeah, I think he's not going to have that arm anymore. And that's one of the reasons I don't think it'll be time travel to save Shiki. Because if it was, then it'd be like, well, then he's going to undo Wise losing his arm. Because this is set up. We already saw, if you look at the old man Wise, he's missing an arm. So there's something in his story that at some point he's going to be missing an arm. That'd actually be really interesting if at some point, like constantly in the story, he's losing an arm or getting set up to lose an arm, and part of the mystery is how exactly he loses it. Though I would prefer if like he kept it gone and gets that robot arm, because I'm very hoping for that robotic arm for him to be obtained. Then he gets back to Eden Zero's ship. It's shown that Seth, when he Diego didn't actually self-destruct. It was just Seth, and he used that explosion to pretty much he like hit his sensors so no one could see him. And then, he waited out and ambushed up on Captain Connor, whereas Seth, like, took his robotic self and went into the Eden Zero system and shut down Hermit, Ivory, and Witch. They are currently, KO'd. Their systems have been shut off. So I'm wondering, like, how their side is going to get saved, because for them, I think it's more of a mystery. I think the way it'll maybe happen is maybe we'll find out more about Captain Connor and his reveal, because we don't, like, he's a very mysterious guy. And especially the whole Eden's one thing, maybe it'll be revealed that he's actually like a badass character, and he just had to find an opening where where he didn't have a gun directly pointed at him. And with like them being alive, I was actually surprised. I thought maybe Maria would become part of the Eden Zero crew, but here she is back in her normal form. I like her more as this like in her normal shape, but like the slime state. I think she just is more interesting this way. But Diego being alive. I was like, okay, he looks cool. He's a cool, big, like, just jacked, like, monstrosity-sized guy. And I like his, like, overly large guns. But I was more interested with Seth. I thought it was cool that, you had this robotic, sharp-shooting cowboy. I just think that's really badass. But back to it, we saw the Eden Zero crew defeated, both at the ship and at where the main characters all are. But Shiki is now defeated. He is rendered at a loss. And he's like upset because he's like, it wasn't supposed to go like this. It was supposed to be like a much more fun adventure. And I think he just like has to have like a moment like this where he's put into a realization of like how things are. And I think for in comparison, I'll just compare two series. It's really quick and easy. With like Fairy Tail Natsu like had its first real kind of like shocker situations. I'd say to a degree during the Phantom Lord when they destroyed their guild, but also when Simon died, and it was just like this idea of like these fun adventures can really like weigh on you, but you have to realize the weight of things and how things can get really serious. And I think that was something also with like One Piece that kind of like nearly broke Luffy. Was like he has this very positive, very like adventurous, happy-go-lucky kind of like vibe to him, where he doesn't take the weight of a lot of things as seriously as they should. And like where his was more of, I would say Luffy's was just more of just straight like being, a naive guy. With Shiki, it seemed more like a delusion. Like he had this fantasy like that was just built up, and he had this whole idea in his head of everything was going to go. And it didn't go that way. It was straight defeated. And like he decides to confront Drakken Joe. And I've thought about using the gunshot as the panel, but I really do want to look at this one because this is a really, I think, defining moment for Shiki. Because I think this is really going to come back to Drakken Joe, and why I think it would be better to like reveal that he's like some form of different species and he survives because of it, rather than time travel. Because I want this part to stay in Drakken Joe's head, and I want him to remember this when Shiki ends up defeating him. Someday I swear I'll beat you, then I'll be your friend because you don't have any now. And Shiki just like in that idea of pretty much forcing him to like see this way that he's going to reveal to him. He's going to give him the camaraderie that he thinks that he doesn't have, that maybe in his mind is what put him this way. That's like very corrupt, money hungry crime lord, which obviously Drakken Joe didn't take very kindly. And he's like, that day's not gonna happen. Straight shoot Shiki in the head and tells him his adventure's over. And like I've said a couple times, Drakken Joe is not like what I would say like a lot of villains. Like some villains would be like, lock him up, maybe torture, or maybe recruit him, maybe like turn him into a soldier, something like that, where they have some form of reason to spare them. Drakken Joe is not. I very loosely use villain because he kind of falls under the idea, as a villain. I think more of an antagonist because as a crime lord, I think his is much more focused on the idea that it's just straight profit, respect, and success. He doesn't have some large grand villain goal or some scheme coming up there. He's just continuing with his his, I don't want to say corporate, his whole money making empire. And in this, I think a lot of people know in the crime world, respect is very important. He can easily get they can easily decide to kill you if they don't think you respect them. It's somebody big, especially like Drakken Joe, and just put you down. But like I said, I don't think Shiki's dead. I think it's going to be more again the question of how exactly he lives. I did like that Jin walked away because he didn't want to see this absolute bloody scene. He didn't want to see this. It's not something he really has the want to. It's not part of how he is. He even says he has bad memories of it. And for both Jin and Drakken Joe, I think this chapter is really going to say a lot about their story later, because we don't know anything about Jin and why he's why his sister's like this, why he was trying to get work from the person pretending to be sister in order to heal his own sister. So I think in that, and then the note when he's like, I don't have fond memories of mutilation. That's going to end up, coming back and making more. This whole statement is going to make more sense when we find out his story, as well as with Drakken Joe, and the way that he views friends and comrades and unions, the way he feels this way, but also why he values money above everything else. Is going to make a lot more sense that when we find out his backstory and then tie to this, and how Shiki helping him in a way after defeating him will kind of ring true to his core, and to maybe will not be oh, I'm your friend now, but maybe gain some respect for Shiki, and will open up something to that, maybe a memory of Ziggy and how Ziggy was, and have that kind of I see Ziggy in you by the way that you act, by the way that you're willing to help somebody, even if it means having to just completely crush them in the process of doing it. And I think that's going to be really telling for Shiki in the long run. But after that point, we see Xiaomei talking about the whole events that happened on October 7th. And it's just a cosmic year of X 492. Shiki lost his life. I don't think it's going to be directly that. Like I said, I think that we know that she can't see the outcome of battle, but maybe it'll be something like Shiki battling for his life. Who knows exactly how that's going to be? Maybe it will be more of Shiki lost his life in his perspective of how he views things, like we saw in the dream that Rebecca had. Shiki seemed a lot colder. He seemed a lot less smiley, a lot less happy and childlike. And maybe that's going to be one of the things that kind of twists him, and then it'll be he ends up becoming a lot more serious of a character, and then it's his struggle to kind of regain himself, to gain that happiness back, to find that sense of adventure and joy that really I think a lot of people know him as. But as it is now, it's just saying nevertheless the story continues, and the morning breaks for the 7th day on a world without Shiki. And that's actually what I believe what chapter 84 is called, A World Without Shiki. So I'm guessing it will be like the setup exactly of how he comes back. Because it'll be really weird if he kills off Shiki. It'll be very strange, especially after Heroes, because then it's like, how are you going to work him into Heroes then? It's not that he's dead, it's like the question of how exactly he comes back, to me. Because I can't think of many series where they kill off the main character. And like full kill off, not like JoJo where they kill off Jonathan at the end of part 1, because after that point he's not the main character anymore. That was his story over, and I don't think that's what Eden Zero is really gonna be. That's more like, you know, they killed off Naruto when Boruto started. It's not his story anymore, and that's how it was all laid out. Whereas, as far as we know, Eden Zero is Shiki's story. It'd be very strange to shift it from that. I can only think of one series where it full killed the main character, like at the end. Well, 2 if you count Breaking Bad, but Jackals. But other than that, like it's very rare. I'm sure there's a lot out there, but I've not a lot that I know of. But other than that, I'm very intrigued. I'm very intrigued to see what comes up. I really liked a lot of like moments in this chapter because I think it'll have a lot of callbacks later on. Shiki telling Drakken Joe and like laying out this thing about how he'll beat him, he won't kill him, he'll defeat him, and then he'll be his friend. He'll be somebody for him, so he finally has somebody like by his side, somebody that he can call a friend. And there's a part about Jin's backstory. I think there's going to be a lot of things telling about Drakken Joe. So look forward to that. Really looking forward to this next chapter. I think it was. I know a lot of people are going for more of like the shock because it was dark. I'm more intrigued of the stuff that's set up. I'm much more intrigued of the stuff that's set up because I think there's going to be a lot of things really laid out that we can, later on connect back to it. Anyway, I really appreciate the thumbs up the video, but from the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. But that appreciate everyone's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.